Look, the point is I just need a way to get God's attention.
Why don't you feed the poor?
Everybody does that. Besides, they just get hungry again.
Well, why don't you read to the blind?
Books on tape. Nobody does that anymore.
Why don't you be a companion to the elderly?
They're like goldfish. As soon as you get attached, they just die. No. There's an easier way to get God's attention. I think I know exactly what it is.
What is it?
Will you make me a hat?
How are you going to get God's attention with a hat?
He looks down on us from above. Hello. The first thing he sees is your hat.
Your hat?
Yeah, because when you think about it, all the top religious guys have hats. Pope, big hat. Rabbis, big furry hat. Reverend Al Sharpton, huge hair helmet. Bottom line, God loves a kooky hat.
The first thing he says is, I need to find a way to get God's attention, right? Let's go back. Let's go back a couple of seconds. Let's play it again.
Look, the point is I just need a way to get God's attention.
So that's the first thing where he was off. He said, I need to find a way to get God's attention, right? And if we all know my wife and kids, Tony was a church boy, right? So he's a church boy, and yet he's saying, yo, I need to find a way to get God's attention, right? So you could use this to kind of speak to, okay, what could he possibly have been taught in church if he's the holy boy or the church boy? And what is he being taught in church that now makes him think, hey, yo, I need to find a way to get God's attention, right? Doesn't God already live inside you?
Why don't you feed the poor?
Everybody does that. Besides, they just get hungry again.
Well, why don't you read to the blind?
Books on tape. Nobody does that anymore.
Why don't you be a companion to...
Second thing, so Claire then starts naming off things that Tony can do to get God's attention. Doesn't that sound like a lot like us, right? Like, okay, let me go pray. Let me go read my Bible. Let me go serve in church now. Let me go give money to the poor. Let me go call that aunt that I ain't spoke to in 10 years and pray over her. Let me go over here and give money to Make-A-Wish or give money to God knows what, right? We start trying to do all of these different things in order to get God's attention, right? We start doing all of these sort of works in order to earn God's attention. And we believe that God is looking out for us now that, oh, I done prayed, or I done paid my tithes, or I done did this, or I done did that. Okay, I have God's attention now. But the reality is that Tony had God's attention the entire time. If he was a believer, if he was saved, he had God's attention the entire time. He just didn't realize it. So, how do you view God? How do you view God, right? The car example, you see, it's much smaller than the fingers interlock. The reason why is because I'm trying to imitate what would be a bird's eye view, right? I'm trying to imitate what would be a bird's eye view. It reminded me of, I want to say it's Enemy of the State with Will Smith, right? And there's a scene in Enemy of the State, I believe this is called Enemy of the State, with Will Smith, and he is on a top of a roof with a character named Brill, right, trying to escape from the bad guys. And the bad guys are looking at them from an aerial satellite, an illegal satellite that they're using to violate their privacy with, and they're looking at Brill and Will Smith on this top of this roof, and Will Smith, the one of the bad guys says, "Oh wow, this guy Brill is good. We can't even see his face because he won't look up." Right? The aerial satellites only can look down. Right? The way Tony viewed God, he viewed God kind of like God had a bird's eye view. Right? He said, God sits high and looks low. That shows you where Tony thought God was, right? He didn't view God on the inside of him. He viewed God way, way up in the stratosphere, and he's just simply looking down. So Tony's view of God denotes distance between him and God. He didn't believe him and God were close. He didn't believe it. No matter how way you put it, he didn't believe him and God were close because he viewed God far away from him and he viewed God distant from him, right? Tony's view of God also lacked confidence in God. Tony lacked confidence. He did not believe that he had God's attention, and he also believed that he had to do some type of work in order to get it. So his view of God was works based, doing something to earn something from God, right? And we all have been there, right? Trying to do something to get God's attention that we don't already do already, but because we're trying to get God's attention, we feel that we don't already have it. So let me go over here and feed the poor. Let me go read the book to a sick child. Let me go over here to the hospital and do this or do that, right? To try to get merit points or get merit badges to show God, hey, God, look at me, look how good I am, right? But the reality is, we are only good because of Jesus, right? If Jesus is not there, then we're not good, right? But because of Jesus, Jesus has made our spirits perfect and he has made us good, right? So that's where our confidence should be in. It should be in the finished work. So a correct viewpoint of God is that we are as close as we can get. I've been saying this for years. 1 Corinthians 6:17 says you are one spirit with the Lord, right? And we always have his attention because we are his dwelling place, right? Going back to the game, 1 Corinthians 3:9 says that you are God's building. You are God's building. You are God's building. God dwells in you. So it's impossible to not have God's attention when God constantly dwells in you, right? And I this is, like I said, this is always a work in progress for all of us, right? This is something that we're constantly renewing our minds to. So if you hear anything from me talking tonight, just know like Drew is not bashing people and saying like, oh, I'm the best of them out there. I got this all figured out. No, I have to remind myself of this stuff daily. But this is where we want to be at, right? This is our final form. This is where we want to be at. We want to be where we want to be thinking where, okay, God, I'm as close to God as I can get, right? I may struggle in, my day to day sometimes, but this is where my landing pad. This is my starting point. Don't start from, okay, I sinned and I'm far away from God. Always start from, I sinned. Let me run to God because God is already here. I am God's building.